Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we do a number of miscellaneous gardening tasks. So let's go. Well, it's officially February 1st, and even though there's still plenty of snow on the ground, and my last frost date is not until the end of May, that is not stopping me. I still have lots of fun things that I'm doing with gardening related tasks. And hopefully you've been enjoying these videos. I'll be making a lot more, just keeping you up to date with the progress of what I'm doing. And my hope is that it's inspiring you to at least learn and maybe even try some of these things. And I have a number of things that I want to share with you today. We're going to start with seed germination. I have a bag here of zinnia seeds, and it's a large bag, and it's not just the seeds, it's also the chaff, which is the material that you get when you collect seeds from a flower. Oftentimes it's the petals, it's the stalk, it's everything else, including the seeds. And many times I do try to just pull out the seeds and throw away the rest of the material. But obviously in this case here, I didn't get to it. And I will be honest with you, I have no idea how old these seeds are. They're quite old, and it's a hodgepodge. There's a mix of different zinnia seeds in here. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to see if these seeds were even viable, because I really don't know how old the seeds are. They're at least 5 years old, maybe even older, because I know I haven't grown zinnia in my yard for a few years. So I wanted to see how viable these seeds were. Now, it's still too early for me to plant zinnias from seed, even indoors under my LED grow lights. However, I wanted to just run the test, and I wanted to share with you my results. So if you have seeds and you're not sure how old they are, it's a good thing to do this test just to see how viable your seeds are, to see how good they are. And, I was assuming that most of the seeds were not good in this bag, but I was surprised, and I can't wait to show my results to you. So I took 10 seeds. I figured 10 is a good number. And basically what I did was I took the seeds, I put them on a paper towel, and I wet the paper towel. I put the wet paper towel with the 10 seeds in this Ziploc bag, and then I just put it under my LED grow lights that have a heat mat under them. And you don't have to do that, but it just happens that I have a bunch of other plants that I'm trying to start from seed that are on heat mats that are under LED grow lights. So I figured I might as well just pop these under there. And I planted these on January 29th, and today is February 1st. And if you've ever grown zinnia from seed, then you'll know that zinnia seeds germinate pretty quickly. Well, these already germinated. I'm going to take them out of the bag, and I'm going to show you what the results were. There are 7 seeds here that sprouted. You can, and I just put them all near each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 3 of them did not sprout. But it does look like possibly I am seeing a little bit more germination on these 3. I just need to give it some more time, because I ran this test. I put these seeds in here on January 29th. Today is only February 1st. So there is still a chance that these 3 might still germinate, because I think I noticed a little bit of white on some of these. But let's just assume these 3 never germinate, and seven of them did. That tells me that a good estimate is 70% of the seeds in that bag are viable seeds. And that's a really good percentage. I'm very happy with that, because I really was surprised. I didn't think any of these seeds were viable. So this is one way that you can test your seeds out to do a germination test to see how viable your seeds actually are. And you would want to do this test with seeds that are older. Even if they're more than 1 year old, it's a good test to run. You don't want to do it, obviously, if you only have a handful of seeds and you don't want to, waste these seeds. But I'm okay wasting these seeds at this time of year. I'm going to be throwing these away. But I wanted to share this test with you and let you know that it's a good test to run if you have older seeds. Well, I'm excited to have started a lot of plants already. And what we have here is a tray of some pansies that we started in a previous video. And they're still pretty small. Right now, they only have their initial set of leaves. And so they, at this point, do not need fertilizer. I will wait until they get their first set of true leaves, and then at that point, I'll start fertilizing them. But I wanted to show you what you're looking for when you're trying to water your seedlings. You want to make sure that you're bottom watering your seedlings, which means you don't want to take a watering can and put the water on top of all your seedlings, especially when they're this small. It's not good for the seedlings and it can cause a lot of problems. It can cause dampening off, it can cause some fungal issues, lots of different issues. So it's better for the plant if you water them from beneath. And so what I have here is what's called a 10 by 20 tray. And it's called a 10 by 20 tray because it's 10 inches this way and 20 inches this way. But you don't need to use a 10 by 20 tray. You just want to use something that has a solid bottom to it. And that way you can take your plants, and I just have small little 6-packs here. It doesn't matter what you planted them in, as long as it has holes in the bottom where it can soak up or drink up the water. And I'm going to put the water in a corner here. But before I do that, I wanted to show you. So right here is a 6-pack, and you can see in the very top that it looks pretty dry. And I had taken some of these 6-packs here and put a little bit of water in them, just so you can see the difference between a cell pack that's dry and one that's wet. And what you're waiting for is you want your whole tray to start to look dry. It's actually good for the plants. You don't want your plants always being super wet. It can cause issues, and it's just finding that balance. And especially if you're a new gardener, it's something that you're just going to learn over time and work with. But you want that balance. You don't want your plants to be too dry, otherwise it will kill the plants. And you also don't want your plants to be too wet. It can also kill your plants. It's often good to give them a good drink of water, let the tops of them get that dark brown color, but then wait a number of days until they start to get that light brown color. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give these plants some water. So I'm going to take 1 6-pack out, and I just have regular water here, and I'm going to pour it in the bottom of my tray. And it was just dirty because I'll show you later on what I end up doing with any excess water that might remain. I'm going to put that back in there. And we're going to do some other tasks while we wait for these plants to get some water in them. And again, what it's going to do is from the bottom, the plants are going to soak up the water. And that's a really good way to water your plants. Many times when I have a lot of plants going, I will fill up this whole entire table with trays of plants. And while I'm doing that, I might go do some dishes or do a load of laundry. It usually takes about maybe 15 minutes or so for these plants to get the water that they need. So let's put this aside and let's start our next task. The next thing we're going to do is pot up some lettuce. If you'll recall in a previous video, we had started some lettuce in these to-go containers that you can get from a restaurant. And I put seed starting mix in here, which I had made myself. It's just a mix of peat moss as well as vermiculite. And we pre-moistened that seed starting mix. We put the seeds in here. We covered it with a saran wrap or a clear plastic wrap. We labeled it, and I put on here the variety of lettuce that we started, which is the lettuce gourmet blend. And we started these together on December 29th. So I still have had this on a heat mat under my LED shop lights, but at this point, there's really hardly anything else growing in here. There are just 2 plants that are still growing in here, and I'm going to take them out today. And I'm actually going to, this is still good seed starting mix that I can use. I'm going to plant something else in here and reuse this seed starting mix. But before we tackle this right here, I figured we'd go ahead and pot up these seedlings. Don't they look great? I'm just really pleased with how they're looking. And you can see that there are different types of lettuce growing in here. Now I've already potted up a bunch of the seedlings that we planted together, but I wanted to do these together with you so that you could see my process. So what we're going to do is we're going to be potting these seedlings up into 4-inch pots. I bought these on Amazon a few years ago. They're pretty sturdy, and I anticipate that they're going to last me a number of years. So I do like to reuse a lot of my pots. And what we're going to use is a potting mix that I made myself. Now, I do want to let you know that I like to use a very fluffy seed starting mix in these type of trays here. But when I pot up plants, I like to use something that's a little bit heftier than the seed starting mix that we had in these trays. So I made my own potting mix, and it is 7 parts peat moss to 1 part perlite. The perlite helps drain the water. It's a good draining type of material, and the peat moss holds on to the water. If I wanted to, I could still add a little bit more vermiculite in here, and vermiculite also helps retain water, but I've chosen not to do that. And then I add just the smallest amount of lime into the mix, and that just helps with the pH, because sometimes the pH levels can be off in the peat moss. So the lime helps offset those pH levels in the peat moss. And when it comes to making my potting mix, I'm just using a type of tote like this. And the next thing I did after that was I took boiling hot water, I poured it on top of the mixture, I mixed it fully all the way around, I covered it, and what I'm hoping to do is I just want to kill off any possible fungus gnat eggs that might have been in the peat moss. It seems to be working. I haven't found any fungus gnats, but I'll keep you posted, because I know that ends up being a major problem for a lot of us when it comes to starting our seeds indoors. So fingers crossed. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and fill this up. And a lot of times what you want to do is just kind of go like this to get any air pockets out of the mix. You don't want to press too hard down on the potting mix. If you do that, a lot of times it's not good for the roots of your plant. So it's better to get the air pockets out like this. You can press it a little. You just don't want to press it too hard. I lost my red pen. I'll have to look for it. I like to use a pen to make a hole. And I'm going to use the bottom part of my pen to prick out the small seedling. And when you're pricking out seedlings, you want to make sure that you're not too rough with the seedling. And also, you don't want to hold the seedling by the stem. The stem is very tender, so you have to be careful. And that's what our plant looks like. And I'm just placing it carefully into the hole. I'm backfilling. I can add a little bit more potting mix. And because I had added the boiling hot water into this potting mix is already pre-moistened. It's still pretty wet. And the key with that is you want to make sure that your potting mix is not too wet. So when you squeeze the potting mix, it's very important that it can hold its form like this. You can see that I squeezed it and it holds its form, but you want to make sure that it's not dripping water. So that tells me that it's good and moist, but it's not too wet. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is just take you in for a closer look with potting up the next plant here. You can definitely use whatever potting mix that you have. It's whatever you're comfortable with. That's been my experience. I have changed it around over the years. I'm always experimenting with it, and I encourage you to do the same. I have used regular potting mix that you buy from the store, like the Miracle Grow potting mix, and that's worked fine. The only thing is that I do tend to start a lot of plants from seed. So for me personally, it can get very expensive buying each of those bags of potting mix. And that's the reason why I make my own. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can see these look really good. I'm very happy with the progress that these seedlings are making. You just want to be careful. I do also tend to be very careful when I'm trying to take the seedlings out of here. I don't want to break my 6-packs. I like to reuse these, and I end up sanitizing them and reusing them time and time again. And you can see they have a very good root system to them. And the big thing is when you're pushing down the soil, you just want to make sure that the plant is good and secure. And you want to make sure that the plant is down deep enough. If it was leggy and wherever you're potting it up from, that's okay. Just plant it a little bit deeper and it'll be fine. And my intent for these lettuce that we're growing together is to grow these indoors. I don't intend to plant these particular lettuce seedlings outdoors. I like enjoying them indoors during the winter months. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and pot up the rest of these seedlings here. And after that, we will tackle taking out the couple of seedlings here. And depending on their size, I think they're still pretty small. They will probably stay in one of these 6-packs until they put on a little more size. So what we're going to do next is, this is what we're left with in this tray here. There's just a couple of seedlings of lettuce that I had left over, and I didn't want to start another 6-pack, so I had put them all together in there. And since we have room here, we have 4 cells available. Over here are 2 pepper plants that are meant to be grown indoors. They're small hybrid type of miniature pepper plants that will be staying inside. But I might as well fill up these 4 here. And it looks like we have 4 plants here. So even if we doubled them up, because I have some plants in here as well, I'm okay with that. So let's go ahead and do that. Just going to use the back of my pen to push back the soil. And I realize that within a week, I'm going to have to tend to these and bump them up into the bigger pots. But for right now, I feel like they have a little bit more time to grow a little bigger. So I figure let's just get them separated a little bit more. So my plan with this tray is, even though it appears empty, there might be a random lettuce seedling that pops up. I will reuse this tray because the seed mix is still good for a different plant. And then I can write that plant name on this clear plastic wrap. And those seedlings are very happy now to be in a bigger pot. So I'm glad we got that done together. This year, I figured it's good for me to share everything with my process and what I'm doing, even if it's little minor details. So I like to use this dustpan here to basically clean up my space and just keep things tidy. And then I can reuse this potting mix if I want, but sometimes also the potting mix or the peat moss has bigger chunks in it. So I like to just sweep that up too, and that goes right into the trash. But this comes in so handy with keeping my workspace nice and tidy. And it's little things like that that I figured you might enjoy watching, and maybe it gives you an idea of how to keep your workspace clean as well. Well, 15 minutes has gone by, so it's time to take the water out from below the tray. And that's very important. You do not want your plants sitting in standing water. That just encourages rot for the plant. And I normally have a much bigger bucket that I dump my water in, but for right now, I'm just going to use this. This is what I've been using for the last week or so. And I'm just going to very carefully pick up my tray. I like to hold these couple of 6-packs here. And you can see I'm at a very slight angle pouring out the water from this tray. You just want to make sure you don't dump out all your plants. And you might not get every single drop of water out of here, but you want to get as much as possible. And if you have to, you can always hold a tray up here as well, one of the 6-packs up here as well. I have some water, even though it's dirty, I have water left over here. I can reuse this water with another tray as well. I don't need to throw this water out. And the next tray that I pour it in might end up drinking up all this water. So it's a nice way to recycle the water. And also, if I had fertilizer in here, I wouldn't be wasting all that good fertilizer. So if we look at these 6-packs, we can see now that they have a nice dark brown color to them. And also, I can see that there's not much water left in the bottom of the tray. There's a little bit, but not a ton. It's not enough that it would harm these plants. And another way that I can test to see if these plants need water is by lifting the tray. Right now, the tray is heavy. That tells me that the plants are good and saturated, But once I feel that the tray is light, that will tell me that it's time to give these plants a drink of water again. And also, again, the plants don't need fertilizer yet. They just have their first set of leaves. Once I start seeing this, like this one here is just starting to get its second set of leaves, which are the true leaves. Once I start seeing those leaves showing, then I will start fertilizing these plants. Every few weeks, I'll do a seedling tour just to show you where things are at. So here are some more of the lettuce plants, similar to the ones that we potted up. And then over here, these are wire vine, and they are plants that I collected during the late summer, early fall. And I'm just propagating them through cuttings, and I plan on putting these in various different pots and containers. And then this right here is a miniature size cucumber. I had two and one died. So now we're down to one. I'll probably plant another seed or two, but I really don't need that many plants because they're meant to be grown indoors. So I will plant a few more seeds, but I'm happy if this one even just survives. Here's the tray that we bottom watered, and it is a mix of pansies. And these are from seeds that I collected from my own yard. The colors of these pansies are going to be purple, they're going to be yellow, and then they're going to be a mix of purple and yellow. I'm really looking forward to having lots of pansies in my yard. Here are some more pansies over here that we started together, and these are celestial blue pansies that I bought the seeds last year from Baker Creek, and then I collected the seeds. And then over here, these are cilantro, and over here are some geraniums. For the geraniums and the cilantro, also I collected the seeds of those, and it's so nice. You just save so much money that way. I wasn't planning on growing any geranium from seed because I am starting them bare root. I have them stored in my basement, but since I found the seeds, I figured I might as well start them from seed and show you the process. And over here, these are just a few Burgundy Delight seedlings that I planted recently, and I have more coming, but for right now, that's what I have. Over here are Swiss chard, and those are all looking fabulous. I'm very happy with how those are looking. And then over here are some spinach plants. And I had some old spinach seed that I wanted to use up as well as some newer spinach seed. So it's just a mix of a few different types of spinach plants. And then over here are Brussels sprouts. And tucked in over here are just a couple of miniature tomato plants that I've started as well. Now I can tell that this tray, at least these plants, maybe not these over here, that they're looking a little dry. So I'll be sure to give them water. So over here we have some opal basil, and then over here are some sweet basil. We have a lot more of the Brussels sprouts growing. And then in these two small little trays are some begonias. They're mostly wax begonias and also some tuberous begonias. I collected the seeds of my wax begonia plants. They were a white flower with the green leaves, and it was a tall begonia plant. And you can see they're looking really good. And I still have a ton more that I need to prick out of a tray where I sowed them very heavily. But I'm very happy with how they're looking. They're all starting to get their second set of leaves. And I've been bottom watering these with fertilizer at this point. And over here, I only planted some on this side. These are tuberous begonia seeds that I collected last year. And I'm very happy. This was an experiment for me because I've never planted tuberous begonias from seed. I've only done wax begonias. And I'm pleased with, I still have plenty more that I need to prick out of a tray that I planted a whole bunch of seeds in, but I'm very happy with how they're looking. I will take you in for a closer look, but this is my Amaryllis collection. I'm not a big fan of houseplants because I really focus more on plants outdoors, but I do love to have Amaryllis, and I think they're beautiful, and I love the fact that you can overwinter them and basically grow them year after year. So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people just buy Amaryllis, they have it bloom, and then they discard the bulb. But that's why I am making these videos about Amaryllis, to show you that you can keep them over the years and the bulbs will just get bigger and bigger. And what will happen is they'll even create little bulblets or little babies, and you can add to your collection. So this one here, you can see is going to be a white color. And oftentimes you might have to stake them because they do get pretty top heavy. But I'm very excited. It looks like it's going to have a bunch of blossoms on there. And then this one here is a red color, and this should look very pretty as well. This one here, I'm not sure what color it is. I don't have them labeled, but as soon as they bloom, I do have the kinds or the varieties. I have the tags saved, so I'll label these once they bloom. This one here has a bud coming, and I actually like that they're all coming at different times and they're going to bloom at different times. I planted them all on the same exact day, so it's nice that I'm still going to have flowers at different periods of time. This one here doesn't look like it's going to bloom. It's just the foliage. And, that's part of when you have the amaryllis bulbs. Sometimes that does happen. I'm okay with that. At this point, it's being treated as a house plant. And, hopefully next year it blooms. And this one over here is just starting to send up its leaves. It very likely will not bloom. Usually the little baby bulbs, it takes them a number of years before they bloom. But the goal is to keep them alive, keep them watered, and then hopefully after a number of years, they will bloom. And this one here has not been looking great. I don't see any green growth coming out of it, but literally this one didn't have any green growth coming out of it until the last week. So I'm still not going to give up on this little guy. But I'm very pleased overall with how my amaryllis bulbs are looking. And I'll be sure to make a video showing you the process of what I do next in terms of bringing these outdoors and then eventually bringing them back indoors and putting them through dormancy. It's a process, but it's an easy process, and I'll be sure to make videos showing you that process as well. Well, I'm not sure you know, but I love to compost. I think it's great to make your own compost, and I thought it would be nice to just show you something that I do inside the house during the winter. And I have a leaf shredder, and I've had it for years. It's not something that I bought. And when it comes to composting, you absolutely don't need to buy this, but I already had it, so it comes in handy. And it's plugged in right now, but if you lift this off, you can see that I have some items that I've already shredded, some paper. I like to shred up paper that I get in boxes, like if I order something online. A lot of times it has paper in there. I like to put that in here. And also, if I go shopping or I get some takeout food or something like that, I often end up with paper bags. So I like to save those, and I like to shred those up and add this paper into my compost pile. And then there's the good old paper towel rolls and toilet paper rolls. I like to shred those up as well. So let's go ahead and do that. And all that's left is nice shredded up brown material for my compost bin. How exciting. I'm always looking for brown material for my compost bin. And I have lots of vegetable scraps and used coffee grounds that I've been storing during the winter. I add that into my compost pile. But then this time of year, there's still snow outside and I don't have easy access to like leaves to shred up or anything like that. So being able to use this for my brown material really helps my compost pile out. I don't end up putting this in my trash. It doesn't go out to a landfill. So it's a great way to just use this material and my plants will be much happier. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. I like to make a list of things that I plan on covering during a video. And I have to admit, the list went on. There were some more things that I wanted to talk about. But I also am trying to make the videos so they're not terribly long. I want you to be able to sit and enjoy them and not be overwhelmed with too much information at once. But some of the things that I also plan on doing in future videos include how to fertilize your plants or your seedlings. And also, I do have a fan that I like to run on with my plants in the room here. So I'll go over that about the fan and why I use the fan and how often I have the fan running. I also want to talk about the LED shop lights that are behind me and go into a little bit more detail about how often I run them during the day. And then I have bare root geraniums that are stored in my basement, and I'm planning on bringing those upstairs and potting them up and taking them out of dormancy with the intent of taking cuttings off of them so I can increase the number of geraniums that I have. And then finally, I also have dahlias that I've been storing in my garage. I want to bring some of those in. I want to pot those up and get those growing so I can show you how you can propagate and take cuttings off of those. So lots of great content on the way. If you haven't already, I'd love if you could click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. I hope you were able to get some ideas out of this video, and until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.